Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Simone Vogarty, Assistant Town Attorney. To her left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the Planning Department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you will call, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will be asked to go to the podium where you'll state your name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have one adjournment tonight. That is case number 18605, Cafe Red. Anyone here for that case? That has been adjourned to October 25th.
Here we go. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, here we go. Case number 18764, Teresa Ventimiglia, 331 Smithtown Boulevard, Ronkonkoma. The location of the property is the north side of Smithtown Boulevard, 405 feet west of Spectacle Lake Drive. The property is zoned NB. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum setback of a retaining wall to the property line from 3 feet to 1 foot on the west and north property lines for existing retaining walls.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Hi.
You state your name and address for the record, please?
Teresa Ventimiglia. The property is 331 Smithtown Boulevard, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're here tonight because?
I'm here tonight because of a variance we're seeking on the northwest side of the property. It's a retaining wall to prevent the runoff dirt to go into my neighbor's property. He has, it's a commercial property, and my dirt was falling in when it rains in his drains. So we had to pay for a couple of cleanups, and he asked us to put a retaining wall, which we did. And it seems to have worked very well. So that's what we're asking for approval for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone on the board that has any questions on this application?
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18765, Teresa Popovsky, 122 Scarlet Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the east side of Scarlet Drive, 646 feet south of Veterans Memorial Highway. The property is zoned R6. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum permitted projection of paving from a dwelling unit from 10 feet to 16 feet for a proposed 352-square-foot paver patio.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Teresa Popovsky, P-O-P-O-F-S-K-Y. I am the owner and applicant of a variance for 122 Scarlet Drive in Comac. I'm applying to construct a 16 by 22-foot paver patio, which will replace an existing, slightly smaller, cracked and stained concrete patio. With respect to the variance considerations you note, I would like to state that the requested relief has been approved by the homeowner association. It complies with their guidelines, complements the aesthetics of the community, and will be within my fenced-in yard. Given the R6 zoning, I would need approval of this board. This is not a substantial change and will be within the property lines. There will be no environmental impacts. This is a new project and not being done to correct a self-created issue. Thank you for your consideration.
This is the Tara
Yes.
property? Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. If you're next, come on up. One second. Want to read the case into the record.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18766, NC Properties LLC, 217 Brookside Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property, the east side of Brookside Drive, 1,595 feet south of Forest Lane. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 12 feet for an existing 1,404 square foot second-story addition, to decrease the minimum distance from any lot line from 8 feet to 0 for an existing 79 square foot shed, to decrease the setback of paving to the side lot lines from 1 feet to 0 for existing playground, paver patio area, and driveway.
Good evening.
Good evening. Noah Cooper, N-O-A-H, Cooper, C-O-O-P-E-R, 217 Brookside Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Okay.
Margaret Velez Cooper, that's M-A-R-G-A-R-E-T-V-E-L-E-Z, Cooper, C-O-O-P-E-R, 217 Brookside Drive, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, we would.
Okay, fine.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Joseph Gabriel, last name spelled G-A-B-R-I-E-L, and I am the architect for the Coopers. The project was to design and construct a second-story addition over the existing footprint of the existing house on the lot, which is what we submitted, that we are not taking any additional space. However, the existing building is existing non-conforming. So that's the first piece of the variance that we're requesting. The second piece of the variance is the 79-square-foot shed, which is a pretty small shed. It happens to be sitting right on the lot line, and we would ask that you just permit that. It could be moved if necessary, but it's a pretty small encumbrance. And the last thing is the circular driveway and play area. The circular driveway is used by the two adjoining properties. They share that drive, and it permits one curb cut onto the road, which is actually a benefit to the town, in that we don't create a traffic problem with people coming in and out. The interference, if any, which we haven't had any, would be on the property itself. So none of these were created by the client. They were all there when the house was purchased. And we ask that we get a favorable granting of these 3 variances.
Okay. The shed in question, only one portion, one corner sits on the line, right?
Right.
The property line? Everything else is capped?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No, thanks. Planning?
Just a couple of quick questions.
Yes, sir.
This property in question is part of the Ivy League school,
It is not part of the Ivy League
It is
school.
not.
It's a single and separate lot.
okay? The play area in the backyard, is that
Is
utilized
used
by
b-
adjacent
is-
properties?
Is utilized by Ivy League.
So the property is in separate ownership, but it's utilized by Ivy
Correct.
League? Okay, thank you.
Question for you. Do you think it makes sense to file something with the county clerk so that any subsequent purchaser would know that that is on the adjacent property, so that if it ever came back, that we granted this variance, that at the current time, even though they're in single and separate ownership, they're in a common use?
So what you're asking is that we put something on the title that says these play areas, these small playhouses. are
Correct.
Part
If
of
this
the
board,
school.
if this board grants it, basically, we would memorialize it in the covenant on the county clerk's
Okay.
record, so that any subsequent purchase of either property would know that that's
Got it.
there.
Noah, do you have any problem with that? Okay, we can accomplish that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. My name is Lou Thomas. I live at 4 Privet Court, the property adjacent to Ivy League Day Camp. My property, the backyard is next to Ivy League. I'm not sure with this photograph or the lot lines, what exactly property that they're trying to get the variance for. My property, there's a driveway that runs across from the street to the backyard. In the morning, at 7 a.m., they come in and they fire up the Hurricane 3000. It's a 23 horsepower stand-on blower that makes a tremendous amount of noise. If you've ever wanted to sit in your backyard and have a cup of coffee, watch the bunny rabbits and listen to the birds, forget about it. It's not happening. After that, by 8:30 in the morning, I got 30 school buses coming back that park over there to stage the drop-off of the children, right adjacent to my property. The fumes are terrible, the noise from the air brakes. What else can I say?
Well, all they're trying to do is they're going to put an extension on their existing house.
I see.
Extension on an existing house,
Okay.
okay? They have nothing to do with the buses or,
Well, they do. Those are their buses. It's not their buses?
no, they said they're not part of Ivy League.
That property doesn't run adjacent to my backyard.
It might. There's one shed that sits on the very, very corner, and they're trying to legalize that.
I don't have a problem with the shed. All I'm asking is that some kind of soundproofing fence be put up before anything is granted. Is that-
You know which, well, obviously you know, where is your lot in,
Where is my lot? I'm on Privet Court. It doesn't show it on here, on this picture.
no.
Ivy League, I believe, is much larger than that one little square that they're showing.
Yes.
This application is for the house adjacent to Ivy League.
right across from the driveway is the playground. Is that the same playground? No. That's not? No. So this property is not the property adjacent to my house?
Hey, wait a minute.
Sir,
Hey,
you have to talk to us, please. We get everything on the record.
I'm sorry, but I didn't know what property that was. The lot lines aren't clear.
Okay.
And I don't even think my cord is in there, unless it's covered by the trees.
Yeah.
Okay, I really wish that any variance they ask for would be contingent on some kind of soundproof fence put in. But,
I think this lot is at the complete opposite end of the property from
I think it
your-
might be in the middle of the property.
No.
No?
No, this is all the way to the south of the property. Privet Court is all the way to the north, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, this property is nowhere near.
nowhere near mine.
No.
Okay. All right, well, my only complaint is the noise and the fumes.
but this is not the Ivy League.
That's not Ivy League.
It is not.
The school buses are not from Ivy League School.
Yeah, but this is,
Yes, but they're a private entity. They're a homeowner. It's like them telling you, stop the buses.
But I don't have buses coming through my property.
Either they.
But they do have buses coming through the property. How do the children get to school?
Okay,
I think you're confusing. There is Ivy League has property. This is not it. This is a private residence at the other side of Ivy League, on a separate parcel of property.
Okay, but it's all adjacent to and used by Ivy League.
No, this application has nothing to do with Ivy League. That's what we established in the beginning. This is just a homeowner.
Just a homeowner. Okay, I apologize for
That's
taking up
okay.
the time. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Anyone else? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
aye. Did he want to come back?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18767, Smith Tech, Inc., 85 Ruth Street, Kings Park. The location of the property, the north side of Ruth Street, 200 feet west of St. Nicholas Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum lot area from 10,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet, to reduce the minimum lot frontage at the setback line from 75 feet to 60 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 10 feet, to reduce the total side yards from 28 feet to 20 feet, to increase the maximum gross floor area of a lot from 30% to 32% for a proposed 1,649 square foot single-family dwelling with a 247 square foot attached front entry garage.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Swear in?
No.
Okay.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Louis Castellano, 2539 Middle Country Road, Lake Grove, New York. Center Ridge, New York, I'm sorry. Good evening, members of the board. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Kasparian. We are looking for a variance for property located at 85 Ruth Street in Smithtown. If you look at the photos of the property and the property cards I gave you, you see there are many similar variances for homes that were built in the area on similar-sized lots. The variance that we're asking for do not impact the neighbors or neighborhoods. There are many existing homes on 60 by 100 lots. We are not, it is not substantial. It is not, excuse me, it cannot be achieved by any other method. It does not have an adverse effect on the environment. Has not been created because it hasn't been built yet. And the lot conforms to the 1981 tax map. It's been verified with the health department already, and we thank you for your time. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
I will ask. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
The only question I have, it's more of a comment. There's a memo from DEW
Yeah,
that
if you want, yes.
that they haven't verified that it is single and separate according to the 1981 tax
He's-
map?
He wants a copy of the Board of Health approval as soon as we get it.
Okay.
Howard sent me a note today. Before we started the process, we verified it with the health department first.
The lot, the handout you gave us on these particular other cases,
What-
where did it say the size of the lots?
They were all 60 by 100s. One of them is right behind it, directly behind it, and the other ones are on St. Nicholas. I pulled the tax maps from the
Okay,
counter. And that's why I sent you photos also
yeah,
of the lots.
thank you. Planning?
No comments, thank you.
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. How are you?
Good. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes.
Spell your last name so we get it correct?
My name is John Knaw, last name N-A-U. I live at 83 Roof Street, which is next door. I had email correspondence with Mr. Donadio a couple of times regarding this. Okay, the concerns go on and on with this. And the fact that that property has been vacant for the amount of time that it has been, okay, in the 24 years that I've been living there next door. The amount of money I've spent in terms of cleaning up that property because of the multiple owners it has gone through. And I would say that this is the third time in which it's gotten to this point where I've had to come to the town board meetings. Other times in the past, I had come with a neighbor that across the street, directly across the street. Now, that is a short street. When I purchased the home 24 years ago, the corner, which is up to 25A, and the house directly across the street from this property were both woods, just as this is, okay? So in that time, those two houses had been built, okay? And at the time, we had come and gone through this entire process before. That house directly across the street was built brand new on a 140 by 100 lot. We are all 100 by 100 lots, okay? In the past that we've stood here, they had someone who did the same thing up on a nice board, pointing out multiple houses that in the area, in a big radius, that were under 100 by 100, which is the standard that they were built previous to the year in which it was put into regulation, effect as to, which I could not verify the year, but we had it the last time when we spoke about it. Once that went into effect, decades ago, there have not been houses built on that because that's the reason to put a regulation in, is that all lots must be 100 by 100 in that area. Now, it's a wonderful neighborhood. It's a short street with quite a hill that comes down and meets right at that particular property, with drainage right in the middle of that property. My property next door, very hard to tell from that, but is much higher. And there is a direct hill from the corner of my property, the garage. From there, it drops directly down, which I've had plenty of dirt brought in to try to level. I have cut out and put fence on the property line, which I did by a survey years ago, to make sure that I didn't encroach, because I've had owners of that property basically almost come to my house and threaten that he had pictures of everyone in the neighborhood's decks, and why are we making it difficult for him to be able to build on it? Since then, I believe it's been handed off and sold to someone else, who's now going through the same process again. And I'm sure I met the person who came by, looking at the property, telling me he's going to be the property owner, and he had it all planned as if he was already moving there. I had never been notified or anything, and that's what caused me to reach out to Mr. Donadio. You started off with explaining this property, and if you notice, the amount of times you said, looking to reduce this and reduce the property from the side, the property from front, reduce the amount here, that was 5 reduces at least that were going to try to get this house squeezed into a small lot next to a bunch of houses that are all 100 by 100 and over 2,000 square feet. This is just something that has been going on for many years, and it's just not something that we've ever wanted in this neighborhood. It's a very small piece of property at a very low point in which that small block comes to it. And it just doesn't make sense that nothing has changed in terms of the regulations or codes. There have been no changes of this in property size demands for a house to be built. So that I don't understand why it continues to have the same thing happen. I've gone as far as to try to buy the property from the owner years ago, who was offended that I offered him so low of an amount, because I said, I don't know how long you're gonna go through the fact that you can't build on this piece of property. It's too small. So if I have 20 feet on right side, side clearance on both sides of the house, and the proper amount in terms of that, why would it be okay to build a very tall, small house with 10 foot of property on each side to a fence and a property line and a fence and a property line? With obviously also adding a garage, along with all that, I don't see how that's possible to fit that into that piece of property. And it's just something that I have opposed for years, and so are all the neighbors. We've had neighbors change over the years, and they feel the same way. It's just something, I mean, I have all the different codes here in terms of how much should be on side yard depth, rear depth, all of that. I can't see how it meets any of that. It's a very small piece of property. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to be heard on this application? No?
I thank the neighbor for his comments, and I hear him. The house directly behind it was granted a variance in 1972 for the similar sized lot. Any drainage questions would be answered by the engineering department. The lot is part of a file map from 1926, which I'll hand up to the board. They're all 20-foot lots. The lot is single and separate. I've handed in the single and separate search, so I don't see why we shouldn't be entitled to a building permit. Any drainage questions he has, any height elevations he has, we will gladly work with him on. We try to be a good neighbor. We've been building in Smithtown for many years, and we hear any concerns he has, we'll work with him. Here's a copy of the map, and here's a copy of the current tax map that we got from the health department.
All right. Thank you. As Mr. Tanzi stated before, there'll be no action tonight on this particular application. You know, it's pending health department approval. All right? One. Do you have a motion to close the application, please?
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
It's a shed. The next case on the agenda is case number 18768. Michael Yaniello, 78 Berg Avenue, Kings Park. The location of the property is the south side of Berg Avenue, 270 feet west of Gold Street. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 8 feet for an existing 160-square-foot shed.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Richard Tripakowski, 173 North Main Street, Salem, New York. I'm the agent for the applicant.
Okay, you handed the power of attorney in?
Yes,
You did.
it was turned in, yes.
Okay.
You need spelling my name, I'm sorry. It's Trpicovsky. Just threw me off for a minute.
Okay.
So, this property is somewhat unique, as the front yard setback is 88 feet, leaving a small rear yard. Everything is in compliance with the home. The only exception is the 10 by 16 shed. The relief from 12 foot to 8 foot, as well as the height from 10 foot to 11 foot is reasonable and has not been an issue with neighbors as far as I know. While it is in the required side yard, due to the terrain and sanitary system, it would be very difficult to move it to another location. The homeowner never realized it had not been legalized until he applied for an added sunroom, which we are in compliance with. We request this modest relief and feel will not have any negative impact on the neighborhood as it is used for storage only.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Oh, thanks.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18769, Jado Villatoro, 6 Cleveland Street, Nesconset. The location of the property is the west side of Cleveland Street, 100 feet south of Smithtown Boulevard. The property is zoned NB. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 24 feet for a proposed 1,017 square foot, one-story addition, to permit a fence higher than 4 feet in the required front yard for an existing 6-foot vinyl fence, to reduce the setback from a rear lot line from 3 feet to 2 feet for an existing 125-square-foot shed.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Salim Abraham. I reside at 254-10 Francis Lewis Boulevard, Rosedale, New York.
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Salim, S-A-L-I-M, last name Abraham.
And you submitted the power of attorney.
Yes, I did. You have it right.
Thank you.
Good
Go ahead.
evening. Good evening. This is a particular lot, like you can see, the angle shape. What happened is we have a stop work order in regards to the foundation being built prior to a permit, approval of a permit. When we were hired at this location, it was very intricate because of the layout on the right side of the lot, gave that angular lot line, and we had to work with the design for the owner. There were several designs proposed, and we came out with the one-story addition, rear addition to the dwelling. But prior to that, there was already construction to the front of the house. So we tried to match exactly what was built and what it will be completed when anything is done. So it's going to be a one-story building. The CO was showing for 2 bedrooms. We added in 1 bedroom. We did redesign everything towards the rear yard. The problem that we had is the front yard setback is 50 feet. As you can see, the 50 feet basically cover the whole house towards the front of the building. So any addition or conversion we're doing at the front has to go in front of a zoning board of appeals. So this is where we are tonight in regards to that particular location. Also, the lot is under 838 square feet. The minimum required was 7,500 square feet. We are under shy of 800 square feet in this area. Otherwise, we have also the shed on the right corner of the property that would like to leave the same location. We are relocating the second shed to meet the requirement setback for that application to make it a little bit easy for everybody else.
Okay. The side of the property where the extension's going, that backs up on commercial property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No question.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Nice evening. Stay safe.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18771, Denise Ramirez, 3 Marie Crescent, Comac. The location of the property, the northeast corner of Marie Crescent and Dewey Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 40 feet for a proposed 208 square foot first floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Denise Ramirez. First name is spelled D-E-N-I-S-S-E. Last name is Ramirez, R-A-M-I-R-E-Z. I reside at 3 Marie Crescent, Comac, New York, 11725.
My name is Jose Ramirez, husband, 3 Marie Crescent, Comac, New York. The reason we're seeking this variance is because when we moved here 7 years ago, we had 2 babies. We're excited to be able to get into a house. Now we have another child. So we want a little more space. Also, we have a few siblings, and we like gathering our siblings and our parents together in our house. It would be an extension of the kitchen and dining room. It's a split ranch, so the dining room is a little smaller than the kitchen currently.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close the application, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
kindly. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18772, Andrew and Barbara Elsalam, 135 Fifth Avenue, Kings Park. The location of the property, the east side of Fifth Avenue, 396 feet north of Eugene Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the setback of a 5-foot-high retaining wall to the property line from 5 feet to 0 for 2 existing block retaining walls, to reduce the required setback of a 4-foot fence to a 5-foot retaining wall from 5 feet to 0, to permit a 4-foot fence on top of a 5-foot retaining wall, and to increase the height of a 4-foot fence on top of a 5-foot retaining wall from 6 feet to 9 feet.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, office at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I've submitted the power of attorney and the mailing and posting affidavits and mailing and posting receipts. I'm here tonight to represent the El Salams in their request for variances for an existing retaining wall and a proposed 4-foot vinyl fence atop the retaining wall. The existing retaining wall, my client had replaced a deteriorating wood retaining wall in the same location with a masonry wall in about 2020. At the time, they did not know that the wall replacement needed a permit and that there was setback variances required for the wall because it is right on the property line. They're also installing or plan on installing a 4-foot-high vinyl fence at the top of the wall. They have 2 young children right now. The fence is there to protect the children from falling off the side of the wall because the grade at the wall the grade at their property is higher than the below the wall at the end. They want to put the fence close to the wall to maximize the usable area in their backyard. If you go to the area variance considerations, and if it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, I'm going to be repeating myself quite a bit on this. Whether an undesirable change is produced, no, we don't feel that way. Actually, they replaced the existing wall, which actually leveled the grade on their property and prevented stormwater runoff from going onto the neighbor's property. And the fence, in also providing protection for the children, will provide privacy for my client and their neighbors. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method, no. The wall was already there, and the fence is needed, again, for the safety reasons. Whether the variance request is substantial, we don't feel it's substantial because there was an existing wall there for quite a while before my clients had ever purchased the property. Whether the variance will have an adverse impact on the environment, actually, we feel it would have a positive impact on the environment due to the protection of the children, again, and also the stormwater runoff being contained on my client's site. And finally, whether the difficulty was self-created, again, repeating myself, the fence is needed, and there was an existing wall there. They just merely replaced it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18773, Michael Specchio, 65 Hayrick Lane, Comac. The location of the property, the south side of Hayrick Lane, 239 feet east of Oatley Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 39%, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the rear yard from 25% to 37%, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the west side yard from 25% to 36%, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the east side yard from 25% to 33% for existing paving.
Good evening.
Good evening. Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown, New York. Agent for the homeowner, Michael Specchio.
And just for the record, you submitted power of attorney.
Yes, today we dropped them off the office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So requesting permission this evening to maintain pavers. As mentioned, the increase is from 25% to varying percentages around the front, side, and rear yards. This property was before the board. Back in 2012, the home was constructed. It was granted a variance for case number 16892. And when obtaining the CO for the house, at that time it appeared the covered stoop was mistakenly overlooked. It was never denied, and that required the homeowner, to come back to the board in 2021. And under case number 18619, they were granted permission to maintain the front portico. After the building department reviewed that file another time, they went to close out the house and then that front portico application, and they were told they needed to amend that application to include the stone pillars, which are beneath the covered front porch. So came back again, submitted that amendment along with the additional fees, and were advised at that time that the paving would have to be included, and we'd have to get a variance for that. So if you draw your attention to the pictures in the packet, or perhaps the overhead view, you'll notice that the majority of these pavers, it's not an impervious surface. There is like a 4-inch grass grout line, if you will, between the pavers. So there's plenty of room for drainage. It will not have a negative impact on the property. In fact, there are 2 dry wells in the rear of this property, so there is no reason for there to be concern with runoff at all. It's very well maintained, beautiful piece of property. The front pavers are just a walkway to the house. It's nothing excessive. Side as well. It's a walkway around the house. They are in the process of, they're looking to sell this home, get permits closed out. We don't have any negative comments or feedback from the neighbors that we're aware of. We did send this out to them. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that to be heard on this application? Come on up. You can pull that microphone down.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Good evening.
Good evening. The quality of mercy is not... Can you hear me?
Can you just introduce yourself?
Oh, of course.
And, spell your last name. so
Okay.
we get it correct.
My name is Karen Lovricic, L-O-V as in Victor, R-E-C as in cat, I-C-H. I reside at 61 Hayrick Lane, next door to Michael Specchio's property.
Thank you.
And thank you. And as I was about to say, the quality of mercy is not strained. It falls on the just and on the unjust. For over 7 years, the quality of mercy has fallen on the unjust, Michael Specchio. He has torn out, those 2 properties had a fence. Both of those properties were surveyed, the one next door to me and my own. He tore out the fence that belonged to me, chopped down my trees, stole 2 yards of my property, front to back, ripped out the cement underneath that tells you where the property ends, and put new cement where he wanted it. The man has vandalized my car repeatedly, vandalized my home repeatedly. He has pipes running from his property. If you put all the cement down, you won't be able to see the pipes with whatever you use to look. He has run pipes under his property into my property. He has flooded my yard, my basement, my foundation. He had people up on the roof tearing apart the roof. Now my walls are being flooded. He has torn up the whole neighborhood and taken wastewater from other people's homes and funneled it into my property, into my basement. On Thursday, you had an inspector come from the town, and my property needs work. I've been in and out of the hospital so many times in the last year, I can't even remember them all. 7 years ago, when a ton of garbage was put all over from White Castle, was put all over my front yard, I went out to clean it up to be considerate to my neighbors across the way. This was just before Thanksgiving. So I'm cleaning up the garbage. It's in front of my property. There was a tripwire on the side closer to Mike's property, but it's on my property. I slipped on a tripwire, went flying through the air, and landed on 2 huge metal stakes that were on my property, put there by Mike Specchio. 2 of his young men who worked for him came running over to help me. He waved them away not to help me. I wound up in 2 different hospitals, Stony Brook and Huntington. Eventually wound up having to have a procedure in Huntington. I had blood clots all over my rib cage, all over my heart. This has been going on. He asked to buy my property. Oh, by the way, every time he broke a zoning law to build the monster house he has on a quarter of an acre of land, much of which was stolen from me, every time he broke a zoning law, and every zoning law we have has been broken for that house. He had a party, and he slashed my tires on my car. I kid you not. If he does all this paving, he will hide the piping under the ground that sends stuff under my ground. And one of the guys who put the pipes under made a mistake, and the pipe came right up through the middle of my front yard. Also, he's going to be putting paving down on land that he stole from me. It's my land he's going to be paving. I'm asking you not to let him do this.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Also, from now on, from go way back to Pets Pac Vecchio days, I have been going to the town and begging like a dog for help. I've begged the town for help. I've begged the police for help. I've begged everybody you can imagine for help. I finally wrote to the president and the vice president and begged them for help. I've gotten information back from the White House where I can turn to get some help from all of this criminal evil. Believe me, I have only begun to fight. I was in the hospital after the guy came for the inspection. He ran the fountains. Every time he runs the fountains, my whole house gets drenched from the pipes he's got under the ground. I just got out of the hospital again. Guess what? I'm not dead yet, and I don't plan on dying. Mike doesn't care how he gets the land. He could get it by buying it from me. If that's not okay, then he could get it by killing me from stress. The first thing he said to me when he spoke to me was, "Got any family here? Fathers, brothers, uncles, cousins?" I thought we were just making conversation. As soon as he found out I was alone, all of this started. The criminal behavior that's gone on is beyond belief. It's going to stop. Either Smithtown will stop it or the authorities will stop it. The former governor of New York said, forget about the district attorney. He works with cops all the time locally, and if the cops aren't helping you, he won't. He told me to go to the attorney general. I'm going to get help by somebody. It's like I'm not even living in the United States of America. It's like I'm living in the third world. This needs to stop.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I pardon my tone, but it's been over 7 years of this. Please help me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this application? Would you like to come back up?
I can't speak to any personal conflict because I'm not aware of any of that. I can
We're
only.
just here for the paving.
Right, the paving is there. It was there when the house was built. It's on all of the surveys and photos that were submitted on the other application, so it's nothing new. I don't know, maybe she's thinking there could be add-ons, but there's nothing to be added. It's what's existing. So I can only answer to that. I can't answer to anything regarding flooding, or I don't know of any pipes. I just know that there are dry wells in the rear yard, which would not have pipes and water going the other way. So that's
Okay.
all I can answer to.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18774, John Ackerson, 79 Oakside Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the northeast corner of Oakside Road and Landing Avenue. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 60 feet to 30 feet on Oakside Road. to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered, steep slopes greater than 15%, for a proposed 226-square-foot detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening again, Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting, agent for the owner, John Ackerson. We're here tonight requesting permission to construct a detached single-car garage holding a front yard of 30 feet instead of the required 60 feet, and permit an accessory structure in a required front yard, and allow environmentally sensitive lands to be altered. So this property was before the board in March on the 23rd of 2022. Case number 18682. The request for a single detached garage was denied, and at that time, the proposal was having it along the property line at Landing Avenue with a 10-foot setback. And so the board did express concerns with the location and made reference to potentially relocating the pool to the other side of the home and swapping it out with the garage. So they took everything into consideration and now proposing the recommended location. This area will not require the removal of any trees whatsoever. They're going to utilize the existing curb cut. And in regards to environmentally sensitive lands, this wasn't brought up at the first hearing, so this is the first time we are hearing about it. But again, none of the topography or vegetation on the lot would be altered with the proposed location as it is before the board today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
I just have one question. In reviewing the documentation in the application file, I don't see anything about any proposed retaining walls. Do you know if in fact any retaining walls are required in order to grade the land to construct the garage?
The initial submission, the original location of the, looked like it was going to require that, but this location, we're not proposing any altering to the land whatsoever. It's a flat spot and it's small enough that they won't require any walls or alterations to the land.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
There you go.
The next application on the agenda is case number 18775, Clifford Rudolph, 33 Gilbert Avenue, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Gilbert Avenue, 192 feet east of Tower Place. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 0 for an existing roof-over, 185-square-foot outdoor kitchen, to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 8 feet for a proposed 18-foot by 40-foot in-ground swimming pool, to reduce the required total side yards from 34 feet to 20 feet, to reduce the setback of paving from the side yard lot line from 1 foot to 0 for an existing paver patio, to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth of groundwater is less than 10 feet, for a proposed 18 by 40-foot in-ground pool, existing 185-square-foot outdoor kitchen with roof over, existing 144-square-foot rear addition, and existing 123-square-foot shed.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Cliff Rudolph, RUD-OLPH. I'm the owner of 33 Gilbert Avenue, Smithtown, New York. Asking for a variance for the location of the pool for the reduction of the side yard due to the fact that I have a big picture window outside my kitchen, and for safety reasons, if it was 16 feet out, I wouldn't be able to view it at all times. I would only be able to see half the pool, and I wouldn't be able to see if there's any unattended children in the pool, and looking to reduce the distance, the rear the rear distance of the pool from the backyard, so it's closer to the house and away from the woodsy area behind my house. On the paver patio, I'm looking to reduce to 0 from 1 foot of an existing paver patio due to the fact that if it was any more forward, it would interrupt my cesspools, and it would be covering my cesspools to have the patio over that existing kitchen. And there is a overhang there to divert my neighbor's trees from dropping where we're on our dining area. And I don't know, any questions?
I'll ask.
Okay.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
How high is that roof over the kitchen?
I think I have it on the paperwork. I believe it's 9 feet.
The application? Well, which one? This one?
Yeah.
Let's see. It's not on- That's a different drawing. B.
It's 9 feet?
9 feet? Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Just that there's a note from DEW in here that they are requesting a test hole.
Yes, I do have that. I dropped that off to them today. I did submit it with my paperwork. I don't know why they didn't receive one, but I dropped that off to them today.
As long as they have it. Thank you.
Okay.
And what is the test hole? Do you?
It's supposed to be anything under 10 feet, and they hit at 5 feet, and the pool is going to be just under 5 feet deep.
There'll be no decision on your case tonight
Yes.
because they just got the test hole data, so they have to review everything. So we
Okay.
don't have a sequel yet, so,
That's fine.
okay? Planning?
No, thank you.
No? Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
This one in here?
It's not in there?
No? Oh, it's in the back. I got it.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18761, Farm to Table, Smithtown Realty LLC, 273 Smithtown Boulevard, Wisconsin. The location of the property, the north side of Smithtown Boulevard, 968 feet east of Nichols Road. The property is zoned NB. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 30 feet, to reduce the required parking from 51 to 41 spaces, to reduce the minimum required truck loading spaces from 1 to 0, for a proposed two-story, 5,493 square foot commercial building with 608 square foot roof over porch.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. And before I go forward, I'd just like to say happy belated birthday to Mr. Valentine. Us Leos need to stick together. My name is John Zolo. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Smithtown Realty LLC, Farm to Table. And I'll just go through this briefly. I also have Philomena Lombardi here, who is the owner and operator of this business, and she'll explain to you what her business entails. But Smithtown Realty LLC owns the property at 27 Smithtown Boulevard. It's vacant land right now, and it's located in Esconset. The property is zoned neighborhood business. Tax map number is 800-168-68. It's on the north side of Smithtown Boulevard, approximately 968 feet east of Old Nichols Road. The lot size is 25,898 square feet. The proposal is to construct a two-story commercial building on the site, and Philomena Lombardi is going to relocate the Farm to Table business that she has currently in the Nesconset Shopping Center to this location. And the proposed building will be a first floor of 3,936 square feet, a second floor of 1,557 square feet, and a basement of 3,936 square feet. The first floor will be used for the retail, cafe, and counter service and food prep. That's what she does now with the current location in the Nesconset Shopping Center. And the second floor will be used for storage, and the basement will be used for storage. We have, I might mention to this board, back in September of 2005, there was an application made on this property by a prior party under case number 14807, and that was a request for several variances more significant than what are being sought here, and to construct a 4,509 square foot building, strip store center. We have met with planning before my client even purchased this property and explained to him what her desire was, what she wanted to do with this building, and it was received rather favorably from the planning department. So in considering the use and the site, the plan that you have before us requires 3 separate variances. 322-9A of the code reduced the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 30 feet, with a roof over which will be 30-foot setback, and the building itself will be 33 feet setback. Reduced required parking from 51 to 41, and interestingly enough, in 2005, the required parking for a bigger building with all retail was 45 cars. And on the plans that are proposed, we'll have 3 land bank spots. And the third variance request is to reduce the required truck loading space from 1 to none. So with respect to the location of the building, because of, I'll give it to you the survey, and I have some photos. I have a survey just showing that the lot is kind of longer and narrow, and the building is going to run in a north-south direction with the closer towards the eastern portion of the property, and the parking will be towards the western portion of the property with the entrance facing the parking lot facing the west. That's what's proposed. So I have a survey here just to show you the parcel, and then I have 6 photos which have all been marked. I have photos showing the property looking west from the north side and the south side, and looking east from the north side and south side. What's proposed is building and this use is consistent and permitted in the neighborhood business zoning district, and is also consistent with the surrounding area on Smithtown Boulevard. You have office, you have retail, you have some industrial all along that corridor. What's proposed here in terms of the setback, again, is consistent with the surrounding properties being set back 30, for the roof over 30 feet and the building 33 feet setback. And also, the proposed building itself will enhance the neighborhood and offer another opportunity for this growing business to continue in town of Smithtown and in the Nesconset hamlet. So I have these photos. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 photos. Just to give an idea, and I'm sure you're familiar with the area.
Okay. Thank you.
So, without belaboring this, the variance for the parking, my client currently at the location she's at has 5 employees. And the parking that's proposed, reduction from 51 to 41, is not substantial. It's consistent with the use, and that what's expected is the 5 employees is going to remain in that number. And the current, and I didn't mention this, my client has 2 farm-to-table locations. One is in Stony Brook, and one is in Nesconset Shopping Center. She does have food. It's like a grab and go. She does off-premises catering. She does food prep on the site. And at the Nesconset Shopping Center location, there are 6 seats where people want to sit there. They could take something from the counter and eat there, but typically people grab and go. They come pick up food and leave. And the Stony Brook location, it's a similar operation, and there's 12 seats there. Again, mostly it's off-premises catering. And what this location will be used for, I'm going to now let Philomena Lombardi come up and explain to you how her business operates and what she will be doing as the owner and operator of the building and the premises. Thank you. Philomena.
Good evening.
Good evening. So my name is Philomena Lombardi. My address is 760 Johnson Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779. Would you like me to spell my name? Philomena is spelled Filomena. Lombardi is Lombardi. Thank you. So I started Farm to Table roughly about 9 years ago. And the cafe was kind of an offshoot of what I originally started, predominantly off-premises catering, which means I prepare food and I bring it to locations and serve it to people that hire me. So the cafe really became something that more and more people had requested, and it's really very successful where people come in, they eat healthy food. I use a lot of purchasing from local farms and local areas. We prepare food very healthy and very tasty. People order a lot of food that gets delivered, and also there are some, I'd say probably about 10% of the people stay and eat on premises. It's under 16 seats. I'm not a restaurant. I don't want to be a restaurant. I don't have wait staff. So people do come to the counter, they purchase food, and they sit either in the cafe and eat it, or they bring it with them. So the location I'm at now is in a shopping center that's very run down. And I am looking to move this location to this new building that I'm building. The reason why I need a basement is because that's where I'm going to put all my refrigeration. I don't have a lot of room right now for refrigeration, and that's what I plan on using, the basement. There's not going to be any prep down there. It's going to be strictly used for storage and that. And the upstairs is going to be predominantly all storage as well. You know, it's going to be where I keep a lot of my paperwork and stuff that I need to keep for a number of years as well. The cafe also has an adjacent room that I use as an event space, similar to like a VFW hall or something that people can have a shower in, and I use it as an off-premises site for me. So it is not connected to my building currently. There's no doorway to it through the cafe. You have to exit the store and go into the store separately. I'm going to use part of this building the same way. It was a way I found to raise money for my foundation also, because people do rent the space for having meetings, like I said, showers and things like that. They can hire me for the food because I am an off-premises caterer, as well as, you know, have a meeting and bring their own. So I'm going to operate this building that I'm building the same way. I don't have a liquor license. I don't know if that matters. Some people may ask that question. I don't plan on having one either at this location. I want to run it the same way. And basically, that's it. I mean, the variances for parking, like John Zola was saying. I do have more than 5 employees. I'm sorry, I didn't want to correct you. At any one time, there's usually around 5 employees there. I have about 10 people that work for me, but they're all part-time. Some come in, but for the most part, there's an average of 5 people there at one time.
Okay. What type of vehicles do you use for your off-premise catering?
So currently I have a box truck, and I have a small Ford van. I do rent refrigeration when I do have to go off-site as well. It depends on where I'm going and how much space I need, so I'll rent a vehicle, like a reefer truck, to do that stuff. I don't get a lot of the deliveries, and I go out and pick up a lot of my produce and a lot of my stuff myself, so there aren't a lot of trucks dropping stuff off. It's not something that, just the nature of my business and the way I purchase stuff. I do a lot of purchasing myself because I get to hand pick stuff, my produce, and a lot of my stuff is organic, so I have to buy it at different locations in different ways, and I go pick that up myself, or my employees pick it up with one of the vans. Thank you.
With respect to the variance to request the truck loading space be reduced from 1 to 0, if you look at the drawing and the diagram up there, which shows the layout of the building plotted out, there's that circular drive that will take you to the back of the building, or the rear side of the building, if you want to call it that. There's stairs go down to the basement, so as Philomena said, anything that she doesn't do, there's no big deliveries there. She takes care of, or her employees take care of most of the pickup and delivery, and anything that will be brought there will be brought to the side and go down the steps into the basement for the refrigerator storage. So the site as proposed and the use that's going to be there does not need a truck loading spot. That's why we're asking for that variance. And the other variances that are being sought, again, I believe if you look at 267B, the criteria that are set up for the area variance considerations, I believe we satisfy all of those. The reduction in minimum setback is consistent with the surrounding properties. If you drove up and down Smithtown Boulevard, you'll see that's about where the properties will line up. And with respect to the parking, 51 to 41, I don't believe that it's substantial. And one of the things, how we got to the parking calculation is Philomena needs to have a certain size building, and you try to work the size of the building to suit her needs and be mindful of how much parking you're going to have on the site. So what we came up with through the architect and the presentation here tonight is it's the right size building that allows Philomena to operate her business as she sees for the future, and also minimizes the amount of parking relief that we do need. So what you have here is a request for parking variance reduction, which is what we believe the minimum that we can request, and still allow the building to be built to suit her needs. So unless anyone has any further questions for me or Philomena, I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No question. Planning?
Thank you.
Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, please. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Leung. I reside at 29 Rolling Hills Drive in Esconset, 11767, and my last name is spelled Leung. So I've lived in this house for 20 years, and over 20 years, and we've had a lot of issues with some of the commercial properties on Smithtown Boulevard. My house was broken into. My family was almost murdered because of a business on Smithtown Boulevard. They're looking to propose to put parking across the back portion of my fence with only 6 feet in between. There's a safety concern for me. There's an environmental concern for me with car fumes, people loitering there in the evening. I'm a widow. I lost my husband 6 years ago, and I have a young family, and I have a lot of concerns here for the safety and, well-being, and also my property value. And they're not even adding any type of buffer. There's 6 feet between, if you look at my property where the pool is, there is a fence that I put up. I haven't seen anything for plantings or any kind of fencing or nothing on the plan. And I have very big concerns about this. We have handy pantry to the left of us. They come and they pick up the dumpster at 2 o'clock every morning, slam it down. We're homeowners, we're young families. I just feel like, I understand what the business does. I frequent the business. I have no issue with the business itself, but, I want you to take a look at the plan to make it make sense for both of us, because right now it doesn't make sense for me. parking all along my back fence, my pool is right there, my children swim there. I have to worry now who's loitering back there, and can do something to my family, When you live through something violent like we did, based upon one of the clubs that were on there, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Vecchio, they all worked really hard to get this business closed down, and now all of a sudden, I'm going to have a parking lot in my backyard where anybody, any time of day or night, can sit there and do whatever, and I have to worry about people breaking in.
Thank you. Anything else? I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think anything else that I want to cover. Oh, then there's lighting, then there's music. They're going to be doing catering. She mentioned that they're renting that out to, or what type of people are they renting out that space to? Maybe, okay, she'll be catering the food to them, but who's going to be in that establishment? How do I know that they're not going to apply for a liquor license? How do I know that, people are going to get out of control and wind up in my backyard? Like, those are the things I have concerns with, and as my town, I would tend to think that you would, try to help, work with me, make it something that's, best for both parties. I know I can't stop this. This is the first time that I've heard that the property was even sold. This just came up with this letter in the mail, so I didn't even have a lot of time to really prepare for this. But, as what I'm seeing right now with this plan, it's not only going to, it's a safety issue, it's even going to devalue my property, and I'm very concerned.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? Gentleman going to speak? Oh, okay. Good
Hello.
evening.
My name is Craig Thyberg. I reside at 29 Rolling Hills Drive. It's Thyberg. The only thing I want to add to what Lisa was saying is on the other side, so we're on the back side of it, where all the cars are going to be parked up, and there's a dumpster right there, about 6-8 feet away from our pool. In the front of it, if we think about the traffic pattern, right now they're putting in a large, I don't know if it's 55 or older, I don't know what it is, but it's a large multi-home community, very, very large, that's going to be emptying onto there. We've got the 7-Eleven over there. We have the Starbucks over there. Traffic on this corner is absolutely horrific. It's very, very dangerous. I can go on, but that's enough said. It literally is horrific. So I don't know if there's been a traffic study that has to go on with this as well. I believe there should. But ultimately, if we look at this, and again, this is the first time we're seeing it, with 10 parking spots and a dumpster closer than you are to me right now to our pool, that's the definition of number 4, an adverse effect on the neighborhood. So, I appreciate the business as well, like Lee says, we've gone there. But we say that we're not going to get a liquor license now. She says she's not getting a liquor license now. What's to prevent that in the future? What's to prevent turning the unused parking spots that may be there? I don't know why they would need 41 parking spots there if it's just a carry-out place. But are they going to get a liquor license in the future? Are they going to be putting tables outside, putting music on there? Is there going to be a big spotlight going into our bedroom windows, which are a Frisbee throw away? All of these considerations need to be taken into consideration. We greatly appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience? Anyone else? No?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, the hours of operation are going to be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I just asked them to take a visit at the current location in this Concert Shopping Center. And Philomena has said they don't have a liquor license. They have no intention of getting a liquor license. But typically, when you apply for a liquor license, you have to notify the municipality as well as, I believe, people surrounding that property. So, but the other thing is, I heard 6 foot. We're proposing a 6-foot stockade fence. The setback, the parking there's a 10-foot distance between where the parking ends and where the property line is, and we don't need a variance for that. And again, always mindful of people being concerned about what's going to happen. This is a quiet type of business. There's not going to be music. It's not going to be a party atmosphere. It's a off-premises catering, similar to what's going on right now. And again, the town will require certain plantings and along the property to address those things. And if the mention was made about the dumpster, if the town wants it located somewhere else and we can reconfigure the site, we'll work with the plan department and address whatever concerns that might come up as part of the site plan process.
What about outside lighting?
We'll comply with the code, and so whatever the code will require, we don't have any specific plans on lighting.
Lighting's gonna be very minimal. I mean, it's a
Come
very,
closer.
I'll show you a picture. It's very farm stylish, you know, it's very simple and very pretty and clean, and it's gonna beautify the area.
Nothing along the parking lot in the back?
We're not gonna be there very late. We're not usually, except for the winter hours when it gets, 4:30. I mean, I don't like bright lights. I don't like anything like that. I can definitely be sympathetic to that, and obviously, if there's anything that's shining in anyone's yard, we would, mitigate it and make sure it's not pointing at someone's yard. The side view, that it's not really the rear of the building. It's gonna be the side of the building that's along the property line, but it's wooded, still wooded, on the other side of the fence. And then there's gonna be a 10-foot, again, excuse me?
Setback.
Setback, right. There'll be a 10-foot setback, and we'll put some nice, beautiful evergreens there that'll grow nice and big, and also be a nice barrier as well. So, I mean, I'm very understanding with people around me, and also making sure that the property
Okay.
looks beautiful. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I'd like to move my business, is to make sure
Okay.
my property looks the way I want it to look.
No plans whatsoever for outside dining?
No, I mean, I don't plan on putting outside dining. I mean, with COVID and everything, obviously, people like to sit outside. I do have maybe 3 tables outside currently at Stony Brook and also at Nesconset, but very few people sit out there as well.
Right.
It's gonna be.
And you would have to come back to us anyway if you were planning on doing it.
That's my point, Mr. Chairman. If we're talking about, everything we're going to do is going to be code compliant. If there's a decision to do some outdoor seating, we'd have to comply with the code. If that requires us coming back to the Board of Zoning Appeals, we'll have to do that. Lighting, we're going to comply. And again, Philomena and her family have a history of doing things top-notch. And if you look at the design of the building, it is going to be a nice-looking, beautiful building, enhanced the area, and we are sensitive, I'll always be sensitive to the neighbors behind the building. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18776, Slack Realty Limited, 660 Middle Country Road, St. James. The location of the property is the south side of Middle Country Road, 14 feet east of Browns Road. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting a certificate of existing use to maintain a wholesale business on the first floor with an apartment on the second floor and a detached garage.
Good evening.
My name is Bruce Slack, S-L-A-C-K. I reside at 1 Avon Lane, St. James, New York. I'm the owner of Academy Fence Company. Just wanted to establish that I've been in business since 1958. It's a family-owned business. We started in 1958, and it's been run continuously since then. Yes,
Yeah?
please.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, office at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I represent Slack Realty in their application for the certificate of existing use for an existing wholesale business, which is a fence sales company, and a second-floor apartment and detached garage on the site that's at the, kind of the point where Browns Road and Middle Country Road come together in St. James. To give a little brief history of the property, the building that's there now was constructed originally in 1927. We received that information from the tax assessor's records. It was at that point when it was constructed, it was a single-family dwelling. My client's family purchased the property in 1958, and at that time used the building, the first floor of the building, for fence sales, and the second floor of the building as a residential use. Those uses have remained in effect and constant to this date, since 1958 when they purchased the property. I have a copy of the web page from my client's website, which describes how the business began in 1958. I'm going to bring it up to you, along with a copy of the tax assessor's records, so you could see the history of the property.
Thank you.
As you see, also, I have Bruce Slack here, who is from Slack Realty, and he can offer any information that you may need regarding the history of the property and since his family bought it in 1958. When they purchased the property in '58 and subsequently turned the use into the fence sales with the residential use on the second floor, a site plan approval was not required at that time. I believe it was 1961 or 1962 where that requirement came into effect. So we did a thorough search of the building department and planning department records, and they have nothing in their records for any approvals for the property as it stands now. But again, it was done prior to the need for those approvals. The only change that we saw that was documented from the building when it was purchased to the current date was in 1967, there was a 10 by 20 addition put on the first floor of the building on the west side of the building. This, again, we received in the tax assessor's records. You'll see, I believe it's on the second page of the assessor's records that I handed to you. They show a dashed area where they added on to the building. So currently, the first floor of the building is 1,441 square feet. The second floor is 832 square feet, and the detached garage is 380 square feet. Again, it's been used since 1958 as the wholesale business, fence sales with apartment/residential use above, and we are just looking to maintain that existing use now currently. If you'd like, I have Mr. Slack here. He can give you any kind of a history of the property, and if you have any questions, both of us will be available to answer anything that you may have.
Okay,
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
Just want to bring up, you know that DEW is looking for information regarding Suffolk County Health.
Yes, unfortunately, I just got that today, so I'm gonna talk to them tomorrow, because I believe what they're saying may not be correct. They are saying that the property was I guess, established in 1980s or after 1986, but from my search of the tax maps, there was actually two lots. It was Lot 1 and Lot 2 that comprised the current Lot 2.1. So I think what they're saying is that it wasn't a lot back in 1981 where the single and separate clause comes into effect, but at that point there was actually two separate lots. So I want to go over that with them, because it seems like we have plenty of sanitary flow, but
Okay,
we'll
that's the only thing we're waiting for. so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more thing there.
What's that?
One more.
No. Did I close the case?
That's it.
No?
Sorry.
Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night, everyone.
You too.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much.
You gonna hand this stuff out first? Okay, yeah.
So before you go,
I'm gonna, I'll address it.
Oh, you're gonna do that?
I'm not gonna do it, I just wanna fix something.
before you go, you gotta pass everything out.
I did.
Oh, okay, just make sure.
I did my job.
Okay.
Oh,
The next case on the agenda, case number 18770, Meadow West LLC, 85 Meadow Road, Kings Park. The location of the property, the north side of Meadow Road West, 584 feet west of Indian Head Road. The property is owned HI. The applicant is requesting variances to permit a second principal building without its own road frontage, to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 80 feet to 75 feet for a proposed trash enclosure, to reduce the minimum lot area from 80,000 square feet to 12,517 square feet, to reduce the minimum road frontage from 80 feet to 57 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard from 50 feet to 6 feet, and a second side yard from 50 feet to 6 feet, to permit an accessory structure in the required front and side yards, to reduce the minimum total side yards from 100 feet to 12 feet, to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 20 feet, to permit a fence greater than 4 feet in the required front yard for an existing 6-foot fence and gate, to reduce the minimum parking from 8 to 6 spaces, to reduce the minimum required truck loading space from 1 to 0, to reduce the minimum parking setback from the front property line from 80 feet to 5 feet, to reduce the minimum parking setback from the side property lines from 6 feet to 0 for proposed 2,700 square foot, one-story storage building and proposed 100 square foot trash enclosure.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Anthony Tanzi. I just want to point out that I do sit on the Board of Zoning Appeals, as I've said in the past, I don't expect, nor do I want any special treatment on this application. Treat it as if you would any other case, and I'd like to hand it off to Matt Aylward from R&M Engineering to present the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening.
Matthew Howard, R&M Engineering, office at 50 Elm Street in Huntington. As Blaise had pointed out, the application is for a 2,700 square foot storage building. It is presently, the property contains a existing building in the front half of the lot. It's presently used for storage and I guess we could say assemblage of gift baskets that are typically sold online. There's a liquor store that's a few properties down that utilizes that space for storage of goods and for assemblage of those baskets. All right, they have a pretty good, from my understanding, is they have a pretty good online presence. So what this storage building is going to do, it's going to provide additional space for those supplies. We positioned the building where it was. We slid it back just to provide an additional 5 parking spaces in the front, put a refuse closure in there while maintaining the existing building. The square footage of the property and the shape of the property is the square footage is 12,517 square feet. It's zoned heavy industrial, and what that does is it really hampers the ability to construct on that property because the heavy industrial parcel requires an 80,000 square foot. So a lot of the setbacks are geared towards those size properties. In this case, we're only 12,517. So anything that we really put on this property is going to be hampered and required some kind of relief from the zoning board. We did receive a letter from the DEW regarding the lot and if it was considered single and separate prior to 1981. We did some research, and the lot in its current configuration on this application is kind of a modification of a previously existing lot prior to 1981. The lot number was 4.0. In this case, the lot is 4.1. It was modified slightly in the back to allow for the railroad to install the pedestrian overpass over the train tracks. Additionally, we have a small sliver of 7 feet of property that you can see on the bottom of the page where it kind of projects a little bit more to the left and then down That's an additional piece to the property, to that 4.1. So we believe that the property is still qualifying for the 300 gallons per day credit as a single and separate. I have here with me Wayne Muller, traffic engineer, to speak on behalf of the 2-stall variance that we're seeking. And we'll be willing to answer any questions at the end.
Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Wayne Muller with the firm of Robinson & Muller Engineering, offices at 50 Elm Street. For the record, I'd like to submit copies of a report that I prepared.
Yeah, I'll pass them out. Oh, okay.
And just to briefly summarize the results contained therein, as my partner, Mr. Elwood, indicated, it is, the proposal before the board tonight is to construct a very modest storage building consisting of 2,700 square feet to the existing property. As depicted on the plans prepared by my firm, in accordance with Section 322-62 of the Town of Huntington zoning ordinance, we require a parking variance. 8 parking spaces are required for the property, and 6 parking spaces are provided. Based on our discussions with the applicant, the building, the existing building and the proposed building are primarily used as storage. They don't anticipate any more than 1 to 2 employees on the property at any one given time. So therefore, the 6 parking spaces provided on the property would be more than sufficient to accommodate the anticipated demand. We took our analysis one step further, and we researched industry standard parking generation data prepared by the Institute of Transportation Engineers in their manual entitled Parking Generation, the 5th edition, which is the most current edition. In that manual, they contain statistics regarding the parking activities associated with various different land uses. I think I've testified before this board on other applications, whether it be a retail use or a convenience store or a Starbucks or one of those types of facilities. But in that manual, there are statistics for warehouse use, which is what this is. Based on those statistics, they would predict that 2 vehicles would be parked based on the square footage that would be available on the property. If it were a warehouse, if it was a general light industrial use where there would be more manufacturing, 3 vehicles would be parked utilizing those statistics. So therefore, based on our analysis, we believe that the 6 parking spaces provided on the property will be more than sufficient to accommodate the use. However, in the unlikely event that there was a spillover in parking or there were more than 6 people on the site, this site is located directly adjacent to the Kings Park Town of Smithtown Municipal Parking Field. As you can see from the aerial photograph, it's directly to the west of the subject property. As you can see from the aerial, there are vehicles parked there, but there are always available spaces. I visited the site numerous times and always found that there were very minimal vehicles parked in that lot. So therefore, I believe that based on all these factors, the granting of the parking relief will not create any undesirable conditions on parking activity in and around this area of Kings Park. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
What's the height of the building?
Height of the building.
The height of the building to the peak is 19 feet.
19?
Yeah, it's a Butler building. It's 12 feet tall on the left and the right side, on the sides of the building, and then 19 feet at the peak. So 4 picture.
And everything that's in that back area right now will be removed, knocked down, demolished, taken out?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And what we're doing is we're actually adding landscaping. You know, the building is going to be set forward, so you have a 6-foot landscaping on each side of the building, plus 20 feet in the back. So we're actually reducing the impervious area.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Good night.
Again, you know, there's no decision tonight. Okay.
And that concludes our hearing for tonight.